I'm Victor Hogstrom, and I'm glad you've joined me for another edition of One on One. This week, it's a conversation with Rayvon Moore. He is now Director of Choral Studies at Friends University and conductor of the Singing Quakers. That means he has some very big shoes to fill. This internationally renowned choir was founded and then led by Dr. Cecil Riney 45 years. It has performed for audiences around the world, winning more accolades and awards than I can begin to mention. Now a new era has begun under the direction of this fresh-faced 29-year-old from Southern California. A USC and Cal State Fullerton graduate, Dr. Moore is a talented performer in his own right. From classical to jazz to rock and roll, Moore can sing it all. He has performed with acts such as the Rolling Stones and Barry Manilow, and sung for television and film productions. Coming up, I'll ask Dr. Moore what drew him to Wichita and Friends University. I want to know what he enjoys more, performing or teaching. We'll discuss the current state of fine arts education in America today and what, if any, changes he has in store for the Singing Quakers. This promises to be an enlightening half hour as I go one-on-one with Friends University's Dr. Rayvon Moore right now. Hello and thank you for joining us. I'm Victor Hogstrom. It's a pleasure to welcome Dr. Rayvon Moore to the program. Dr. Moore, you've been in Wichita now for a little over a year. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
You're at Friends University, directing the Singing Quakers and co-chair of the Fine Arts Department.
Yes.
How are you enjoying this?
I am really enjoying my time at Friends University and in the city of Wichita. My wife and I, we've been here a little over a year, about a year and a half, and we've enjoyed our time being at Friends because I love the faith component with education, and my students are incredibly talented and kind and warm people. And the city of Wichita, they've been a welcoming environment for my wife and I.
Now, you've been involved in music in California, Hollywood, and we'll talk about that a little bit. You have moved to teaching music. You are very much involved in the university and earned a doctorate degree in music. Tell us about your background. Did you grow up in a musical family, like the Jacksons, or just what happened? How did this all come about?
Well, my family and I, we like to say that we know that you're a real Moore if you can sing. So that's, it's kind of in the blood. Music has always been a great part of the Moore family. Faith and the church has been a great part of the Moore family. So I grew up singing in church, the Baptist church, and my grandfather was a preacher. My grandmother was deaconess and Sunday school teacher, and she was a singer and alto in the choir, and I sang under her. And so I grew up mimicking the choral directors in the gospel church.
Mm-hmm. And so from there you decided music was your thing to be.
From there, yes. I even started out, I didn't sing in schools when I was K through middle school. I felt as though that singing was something that was sacred, and I kept it to church. And so I played instruments. I took piano lessons, played the saxophone, and when I got to Beverly Hills High School, that's where things changed for me. And so I joined the choir there, and my mentor, Joel Pressman, really inspired me to be an educator and to be a conductor of choirs. And so it's due to his tutelage that I went the route that I did.
You have taken this business of music so seriously that you attended one of the best music schools in the country, Eastman School of Music. How did you do that? I mean, coming from California all the way to New York.
Well, I can tell you that it's nothing but the grace of God that happened. I never thought that I would leave Los Angeles. You know, I think when you grow up in Los Angeles, you're in a bubble, and so you don't really look elsewhere because, you know, we love our city quite a bit. But when I applied to the Eastman School of Music, I applied and it was a long shot for me. You know, they only take one DMA conducting student, choral conducting student a year out of hundreds that apply, and but I felt as though that it was something that I should throw my hat in the ring and try for, and by the grace of God, I made it, and it was the best time for me.
So what was your dream growing up when you didn't think you would become a musician?
Well, I thought that I would be a judge. And so I still tell people that if I wasn't a musician, I probably would have gone to law school. And so, but I think that I have a much more rewarding experience as an educator and as a musician. I'm probably a lot happier than I would have been as a judge, I would think.
So then you became a musician, of course, with that doctorate degree. Tell us about that, about your performance career and some of the famous bands and singers that you've worked with in your career.
Well, I have to say that during my education career is when I did a lot of those performances. I had those opportunities. You know, the USC choir, we were able to perform backup for the Rolling Stones for their 50s and Counting tour, for Barry Manilow. When I went to Cal State Fullerton, we performed with Andrea Bocelli and Kathleen Battle and Deborah Voigt. We also toured all around the country and around the world. And so those opportunities really opened my eyes to the professional world of music, and having done an episode of Glee for the Michael Jackson episode and sung on that episode, that was exciting for me.
So why didn't you continue that path? You seemed like you were doing very well, making millions.
Well, if I were, I probably would have stayed that way. But I felt a calling towards education. It's one of those things that folks have always told me that I was a natural teacher. I don't know if that comes from being in church and having a grandmother who was a teacher and a grandfather was a preacher, that sense of oration and connecting with people. But I had a desire to do something more than just for myself, but how can I impact those around me and impact the world through music? And education is a great big part of that.
So which do you enjoy better? Is it singing, performing, or teaching?
Definitely teaching.
Why?
Because I know what mentorship did for me. And so what Joel Pressman did for me and countless other mentors that I've had throughout my career is the desire, why I have the desire to be that for somebody else. And so through education and seeing my students succeed and achieve their dreams and to support them in that, there's nothing more rewarding than that.
So you decided then to come to Friends University. Why Friends?
Well, Friends had a great reputation in the country for having a wonderful fine arts program. And the Singing Quakers were well known, and I felt as though that I could take this program and push it forward towards a new era. And I just had a great feeling. They invited my wife Brittany and I when I came in to interview and audition. And when we landed here for the first time in Wichita, this was February of 2020, when we landed, we both said, this feels like home, oddly enough. And this was our first time ever being in the state of Kansas.
Wow, it's interesting. Yeah. So prior to coming to Kansas to take over the Singing Quakers and to head up the music program at Friends University, had you ever heard of the name, you've heard of it now, but Cecil Riney?
Absolutely, yes. He's a legend in our field, that's for sure.
You know, he led that choir for 45 years. What's your plan for the choir? How do you plan to distinguish your leadership and to make that choir, the Singing Quakers, different from what has happened in the past?
Well,
Taking it to the next level.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that growing the program is one thing, and also in the repertoire that we select and the repertoire that we sing, that we perform. I think one of the things that Singing Quakers has had a great tradition of choral excellence as far as balance and blend and ensemble, but also having experiences of working with living composers, which is such a treasured thing to do. Because we tend to do a lot of older music and of composers of old, of hundreds of years ago, that we're not able to ask those detailed questions about the scores. And so one of the things that we're starting to do is that we're commissioning new pieces, a new piece every year for the Singing Quakers, so that way we have that connection with living composers. And also to do a lot more recording. I think it would be nice to have an internationally released recording by the Friends University Singing Quakers. So that's on the horizon.
Okay. You've been conducting the Singing Quakers in your year and a half here in Wichita already.
Yes.
So we have a clip that we'd like to show you to our viewers of you conducting and as they perform. All right, so let's take a look at that. Dr. Moore, you are a character watching you. You enjoy conducting too, I see.
I do.
Were you singing along or just conducting?
Well, I sing in my head quite a bit.
In your head. In high school, I conducted my high school choir, and you've promised me that I will conduct what was that song?
Hallelujah
the
Chorus.
Hallelujah Chorus.
Yes.
That's correct. That's been my dream to conduct that piece.
Well, we're going to make that a reality, Victor, I promise.
Okay.
We'll make it happen.
And the gymnasium or the auditorium will be packed.
Yes.
Everybody will come to see me conducting. Right.
Yeah.
Well, let's continue here because we would like to do a little lightning round with you.
Oh,
all right?
okay.
And with some short answers. I call it a little game we play, and through this game, people learn more about you too,
Okay.
as you well know. So I'll ask you, what brings you joy?
My wife brings me joy.
Talk about any kids, your family?
Not yet, but we do have a four-legged pup by the name of Chester. He's a miniature poodle, and I will tell you, he is a furball of energy.
What makes you angry?
I will say whenever my team loses, either the Dodgers or the Lakers,
Oh.
whenever they lose, I'm pretty angry.
Okay. What relaxes you?
Watching Netflix.
Really?
Yes.
What do you enjoy on Netflix?
Well, I just love watching films that causes me to escape from my present stresses or responsibilities or duties. So watching anything with crime or suspense or a thriller oddly relaxes me.
You would think listening to music, you would say.
One would think so, but my life is surrounded by music almost 24/7, that sometimes it's nice to even just ride in the car without having any music playing.
Right, right. What is your favorite song?
My favorite song. My favorite song is If I Can Help Somebody.
Ah. And that's a religious song,
It
right?
is.
If I can help somebody, that song.
Mm-hmm.
What is your favorite popular song?
Ooh, my favorite popular song.
Non-religious.
Well, I'm a big Earth, Wind, and Fire fan. I love that band. So I would probably say September. That's our family song. And so my family, we can't help but bust out and dancing and singing if that plays.
Okay. Who is your favorite well-known singer?
My favorite well-known singer. Aretha Franklin.
Why is that?
Because she sang with such power and conviction and soul and heart, I believed every note that she sang. I believe every word that she sang.
Okay, so there are well-known singers and there are not well-known singers, but they are good singers, right? So the next one is, who is your not so well-known singer?
Wow. My grandmother
Ah.
was, I would say, not so well-known favorite singer.
Okay.
I get a lot of my vocal stylings from her.
Do you have a favorite musical instrument?
The piano.
The piano.
It's invaluable as a conductor, being able to be at the piano and playing through scores in order to actually hear the whole corporate sound.
What impresses you?
Someone who is able to manage their time and juggling life and jobs and family. I find that impressive because it's one of those things that I think that most of us struggle with, time management and also making time for ourselves. And so I always find that impressive when I meet somebody that I feel as though somehow they've figured it out. I wish that they would bottle it and sell it to the rest of us, I think.
What do you dislike most?
I dislike being wrong.
I think we all do. Something you just don't understand. What is that?
God. And when folks ask me about faith and believing, it's one of those things that sometimes it's hard to put into words. Well, how do you know if God is real? And the best thing that I can tell folks is that I look at my life and I look at how things have come to be, and I don't think that it's by chance.
And my final question is, what is something you recently changed your mind about? You may have had an opinion about it, but you've changed that opinion or your mind about that thing, that situation.
Yeah. Well, I guess to end on a lighter note, I would say that I possibly have changed my mind about the Atlanta Braves, which is my wife's favorite team. And I think that they're okay, whereas before I thought they were terrible. But it might be because I'm a true Dodger Blue.
Okay. So let's talk about the fine arts. How are the fine arts evolving? What changes can we expect in the future as we enter or approach the second quarter of the 21st century?
That's a great question, Victor. I think that the fine arts, we are needed now more than ever, but I think that's true of every era of our lives, that we provide culture to a society. But what are the fine arts are facing challenges today of just engaging young people within the arts. You know, I don't think that you find too many young folks who are actually studying and taking up instruments as much as they are picking up a football or a baseball. And so it's finding out ways that we are able to connect what students are able to learn through the arts of teamwork, of competitiveness, same as athletics, of resilience, of being, of structure, of discipline. Those are all things that we learn through the arts. And I think that we're also having to find ways to engage the audience. I think that we're kind of moving away from staunch classical type experiences where folks come into a concert and they're silent and they just experience things. But how do we engage the audience? How do we invite something else to happen on the stage while another performance is happening? Maybe there's a visual artist that's painting on the side as a choir is singing. Maybe there are graphics that are being projected, something that engages many aspects of art form, I think is something that we'll have to dive deeper into.
So how do you plan to apply what you've just said to your work at Friends University and the Singing Quakers?
Well, one of the ways that we're doing that is through our Christmas candlelight. This year it's going to look a little different, and so we are trying to engage everybody within the Fine Arts Division. So not only just having the choirs, but having the band and having jazz band and orchestra and having dancers. So that way all who come can experience the joy of the season.
For you, it's music, music, music in your orientation. You are also the director of music at Chapel Hill United Methodist Church, and here I thought you were Baptist, and conductor of the Wichita Chamber Chorale.
Yes.
What do you enjoy about those jobs, and what do you plan to bring to these two organizations in addition to what you do at Friends?
Well, what I love about all the jobs that I'm able to do is that it's doing what I love to do, which is to be around people and to make better folks through music. And so I love being able to work with community members, and so I not only work with students and young folks, but I also work with older folks, being in a church choir, and to actually be able to see the progression of folks who sing at an early age and who are singing in the later years of their life, and how music has been that continuity, that thing that has kept them engaged in the church or engaged with other neighbors and communities within Wichita. And so that's one of the things that I love. I hope to just actually be able to bridge those jobs together and be able to do things together. So when you have three ensembles, then maybe we'll be able to do one big mass concert together and probably do a choral orchestral work. That would be nice.
So why do you believe music is so important, and what does music do for people?
Music, for so many, allows one to express themselves in a way that sometimes might be hard to speak in words. Sometimes it's easier for folks to sing about how they feel. Sometimes it's easier for folks to play about how they feel, how they respond to something, whether it is something that has happened within their life personally with family, or whether it's something that they're experiencing in the world. And I really do think that it is something that brings multiple people together from all walks of life. I can't tell you how in choirs you'll have folks who are of faith and not of faith. You'll have Republicans and Democrats. You'll have blacks and white and Hispanic. And music allows for these cultures and these different backgrounds and social economic statuses to come together and to experience the joy of music and that common language that we all speak.
And music is indeed a common language.
Absolutely.
Do you agree if I were to say music makes the world smaller by bringing people together?
I would agree with that.
Okay. What do you do for fun, Doctor, other than music?
Well, one of the things that I just got into moving here to Wichita is pickleball. I'd never heard of it in my life.
Yeah.
I like playing tennis, and so I like this better because the court is smaller. So that's easier on my that's easier on my ankles and my joints.
Pickleball.
Yeah.
Is that the only sport you've played?
That is the only sport I've played, yeah.
Wow. So when you look at the world today and you look at what the kinds of music that other kids are performing, the rap songs and other type music that you're not accustomed to, you didn't grow up with, although you're 29 years old. But what goes through your mind? Do you relate to those musical renditions that you hear, or what do you think of it?
Oh, absolutely, Victor. I mean, I want to be clear that I'm not just a classical musician, but I grew up in Compton. So I would argue that that's probably the birthplace of rap. NWA and Public Enemy, and really having those awesome rap groups that I love. And so you will catch me listening to popular songs today too. I just love music.
Do you rap?
I can't say that was a gift that was given to me, Victor. Yeah.
Have you tried it?
I have, and I'm terrible.
It's been a pleasure having you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much,
Dr.
Victor.
Rayvon Moore, Friends University. Thank you for joining us.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
And thank you for watching this edition of One on One. Our email address is oneonone@kpts.org. That's if you have a question or comment. Until next time, I'm Victor Hogstrom. Take care, and I'll see you again soon.